Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm in Michigan.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. This week, we're going to take a look at a movie that I didn't actually get a chance to see while it was in theaters. We're going to discuss Joker. It's up for 11 Oscar nominations this coming weekend, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and again, many more. So, it's a film that I've recently just watched now that it's been released, and Matt got to catch it in theaters. So I'm curious, Matt, what do you think is the big talking point? What makes this film something that's really Oscar worthy for a comic book movie?
It's different. It's different for a comic book movie. I think DC in general tries to go a lot of times with at least with the Nolan films set in real world, and I think this, even though it is comic book world, it feels more closer to, like a I won't say like exactly real life, but as if it was in the real world in the 1980s.
Yeah, that's the thing. Going into the movie, I didn't even realize that it was taking place in the 1980s. It wasn't until I actually watched it that I'm like, oh, okay. Because they didn't make it a big deal. It was just like, this happens to be a movie that takes place in the 1980s, but we're not going for that nostalgia factor. That was kind of refreshing from that perspective.
Yeah, this movie for a comic book movie, this movie has no superheroes in it. There is no heroes to be seen, and it's a movie that focuses on a villain, which is kind of a different take. It's not a villain team up. It's not a villain established with a hero. He isn't the opposite of the hero to our story. It is taking a look at the villain, where the villain is the main character here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So Joker is notorious for not having a very well defined background, for not having a very well defined backstory. But at the same time, as much as people complain about exploring the Joker's background, multiple movies have already done so. The original Tim Burton Batman flat out puts Joker as just being a gangster who had a mishap basically, and the the animated series Joker actually has a whole backstory that was explored in Mask of the Phantasm. So I didn't think it was crazy to go back and explore the Joker's backstory, and the way they did it for me really worked. I I really liked that they kept everything still pretty mysterious. Um, Might as well get it out of the way because this movie's already out. We're going to be discussing spoilers. Um, but basically, Joker in this, he goes through a character arc where he thinks he's someone's son, that he might be the bastard offspring of Bruce's dad. Matt, remind me. What's his
Thomas
dad?
Thomas Wayne.
Thomas Wayne's. Thank you. Thomas Wayne's bastard offspring. Um, Come to find out that his mom's actually kind of crazy. Spent some time in Arkham Asylum, and his character has to go through all of this, and you get to go along for that ride. It was really good, and at the same time, you find out he was adopted. So his background still remains a mystery. You think you're getting a story about Joker and his background, but in the end, it's all like, oh, he's adopted. You still don't know where he's actually from.
Yep, exactly. This movie is kind of like, it's not telling you like who the Joker is. It's more like, all right, how does someone become the Joker? Um, a lot of people, of course, they want to compare. We've had some really good Jokers, Jack Nicholson, doing the Joker. We have Heath Ledger and stuff, who, in my opinion, Heath Ledger is probably my favorite of capturing the Joker, kind of what, as, the gangster stuff. But this Joaquin Phoenix portrayal, this is kind of like, how does someone become the Joker? As opposed to trying to explain, you know, who the Joker is necessarily, is what I would say about this film.
All right, so what's your favorite part of this movie? Because I have definitely something that sticks out in my mind, and then I have something I really don't like. So I want your take on what you really favorite part.
Well, I would say, I mean, definitely Joaquin Phoenix portrayal is excellent. Some of the things that I like, they're a little offbeat. There's no dialogue. It's actually some of like the dancing scenes with like the Joker. It's kind of like in this movie, his mom is always telling him, to put on a smile, put on a happy face. And in this movie, the Joker says that he has not had a happy moment in his entire life, kind of thing.
Yep.
And
all he has is dark thoughts.
he just
yep.
has dark thoughts and stuff. He's not had a happy moment in his life. And basically when, stress is full and when he's by himself, there's these scenes that happens a few times where he's kind of like dancing, to himself. It's basically kind of like, it's like going into his own world kind of thing. And, a lot of this movie or a big part of this movie is trying to determine, what is real and what is going on in his head. There's a relationship that he has in this movie that he doesn't actually have in the real world. It's all going on in his head. He makes it up. And so for me, I kind of like the dancing scenes because they're kind of at key moments when, he is trying to basically escaping from like the real world or whatever and kind of going into, to steal from Sherlock, going into his mind palace kind of thing.
Something that stuck out to me, and it goes along the same vein of Joaquin Phoenix's performance, is how much this movie seems like a one-man play with just maybe some, surrounding environment. You have other actors, obviously. It's not strictly speaking just him. But it concentrates on him. It lets Joaquin Phoenix explore the character of Joker. It is really just all about him. It's hard to say there's even that many supporting actors in this film that are main characters. Like you said, the one that you might say is a supporting actor is really just kind of, it's made up in his mind, as it turns out. So I really, really liked that. I would not go back and change my my vote for Best Actor. I still think that's Christian Bale. But it's probably because I just enjoyed Ford v Ferrari more than this, but it's still a fantastic portrayal of Joker.
Yeah, and just what Joaquin Phoenix, I think, put into this, just not only, the acting, but just like the physical and everything portrayal of this character and stuff. Granted, I would still say my favorite Joker is Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker, but I think just as like kind of like a character kind of thing, I like what Joaquin Phoenix put into this role.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So I agree about Heath Ledger. It's because his Joker's like chaos incarnate. It's a Joker in his prime. He knows what he's doing. He has a plan, or maybe he doesn't have a plan. Who actually knows? I guess, and that's part of the joy of it. It's hard to compare an origin story for Joker to a, this is Joker at his most badass, So there's one thing, though, that just really bugged me about the film. Some people might like it, some people might not. It's kind of gritty, but I did not like the portrayal of the Wayne family at all. I liked that in like Batman Begins, and even in the original Tim Burton Batmans, the Wayne family, they give their money to projects. They're a good, upstanding family. People look up to them, and in this, Thomas Wayne's kind of just a dick. I did not like that portrayal at all.
Well, I think it kind of shows you it's like the different perspective. So a lot of times, everything that we have seen of Thomas Wayne has been from Bruce Wayne's perspective. What, friends of Thomas Wayne has told Bruce about his father. And I think that that's a good parallel. Father figures are a big part of Batman, superhero. Bruce Wayne is about kind of like making his father proud kind of thing, you know, succeeding kind of where his father failed, completing his father's work. And the Joker in this movie, Joker, he's searching for a father figure. You know, at the beginning, he's kind of looking at, you know, Maury, the you know, talk show host. You know, Murray, he kind of comes up, you know, in his head of, you know, makes up them meeting, you know, on his talk show kind of thing. And, you know, Murray saying in his ear, you know, you're the son I wish I had kind of thing. And then that's the thing too, looking for Thomas Wayne, trying to believe, you know, his mom's, you know, lies in her head, what the lies that she told herself, that Thomas Wayne is his dad, and that's him searching for that father figure, and he, you know, turns on both of them when, you know, they confront him with the truth, or, you know, his dreams or whatever of having that father figure are dashed. So I think, you know, that's kind of interesting. I would say that's probably why it's so different, because this movie is kind of taken on, you know, with the Joker, his interactions with, you know, Thomas Wayne and stuff. Thomas Wayne sees him as some, you know, crazy guy whose mom was also crazy.
Yeah, and he goes out of his way to say, like, your mom was crazy. You know, like, she was nuts, basically. But I can understand saying I knew her, and you know, she had mental health problems. She spent some time in Arkham, but he didn't. I still just don't see why the character had to be so mean. You know, like, I get it. It's a different side. It gives different perspectives. I just don't like the way they did it. That's all. It's a personal dislike in that moment. Even if it worked for the film, even if it worked for the director, for me personally, could have left that.
I think too, like, this Joker doesn't become Joker if it isn't in the right setting. I think the setting of anything is the biggest thing. It's talking about the large gap between, you know, the top and the lower class. I mean, that's, you know, when the movie starts and you hear it in the background about, you know, people losing their jobs, you know, businesses going out. It's something that's ongoing through the whole thing. And my guess is, you know, it kind of has like the lower class versus the upper class, and how society is just working for the upper class. And I think if they made Thomas Wayne a more sympathetic character, it probably wouldn't go with that theme, if that is the overall arcing, you know, theme of this movie, of, you know, lower class feeling like, you know, the government, you know, society aren't working for them anymore, and that everything is just to keep the rich and stuff.
Yeah. So one of the other facets of the film to explore for me is I've seen several individuals who say that this film really put a light on mental illness for them, and that they're like, oh, you know, it's true that the system can treat people like this sometimes, and it's interesting. They're not wrong. There definitely is facets in this movie that are talking about and pinpointing, like, you know, if the system was in place better to take care of people, then maybe this doesn't happen. Maybe we don't run into the situation that we run into. And so, you know, on the upper crust, the rich versus the poor, or the downtrodden, it's similar, where it's like, if we took care of them, maybe we wouldn't run into these situations, which is obviously a parallel to real world situations that we could be in right now. I'm curious about your take on whether or not you see that, or if it's kind of just like something that happens in the movie because it has to happen.
No, I think mental illness, you know, like, is a big part of this movie. And it takes us from like some real world studies and stuff. A lot of times you kind of look at, I don't know, it's to say like mass shooters or serial killers and stuff. There's a lot of focus, especially by the FBI, on like their upbringing and stuff. What, you know, are people just born this way, or does something happen into him that kind of like molds him this way? And Joker, I think, fits a lot of that criteria. Not to say that if you experience these things, you're going to turn into a mass shooter or a serial killer or something. That's not how this works. But it's just something they found out that, in these people, they do have some similarities. So you looked at, he had a very damaging, parental structure. His mom basically let her boyfriends beat him up. The Joker is someone who suffers from a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. And, I think a lot of people are getting on saying that, this is trying to make us, sympathetic to serial killers and stuff. And I, don't see that at all, though.
That's ridiculous.
But because here's the thing is, even though he does these things and it kind of shows you why he does these things, it doesn't mean that the audience agrees with his actions. Like, we'll take one scene kind of like I would call this the turning point. When he has the gun and he kills the guys on the train. The first two, it's almost like a self-defense kind of situation in a way. But then, he gets off of the train, he chases down the third person and stands and waits before gunning him down as the guy is trying to crawl up the steps. So in no way are we looking to say it's sympathetic, but the overall arc of mental illness and stuff like that, I mean, the program, he is getting help, but it looks like it's a government-funded program, and because of the situation, everyone, money is tight and stuff, the program's getting cut. He will no longer be able to see, his psychologist, and he kind of feels like all his psychologist is there for is to get him on pills and, not really listen to what he's saying anyway. So it kind of shows that, in at least his mind, the system is failing him. And I think, there's some real world parallels to that.
Yeah, so one of the things that I always like to think about just movies and television series, you have to remember that it's a movie. It's not a documentary, but it doesn't mean it can't make you stop and think about something that's happening in the real world. You're not sympathetic to what Joker did. He's a bad person and he does bad things. But it can make you think about what's happening in the real world. It's the same with Star Trek. I know. Back to the Star Trek well. Gotta help. Gotta do it. But, you have to sit there and say, listen, it's a science fiction show. It doesn't mean it can't make you think about what's happening in the real world, though. I just think it's important to make the, distinction between it's not real, but it can make you think about real things. And Joker does a very good job of that, in my opinion. If you're a fan of film, definitely go see this. If you can catch it in theaters, I mean, it's been out of theaters, but sometimes, places like Alamo Drafthouse have these things back in theaters. It would probably be interesting to see in theaters. I regret not being able to see it when it was in theaters in its first run. So, if you're averse to violence, it's a violent film. Don't go watch it, probably, if you're too averse to that kind of environment.
It's raw, and of comic book characters go, this is the baddie of the baddies. So, this one doesn't hold any punches.
That's so true. I know it's a down and dour film. Like, you're not going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. You're not going to laugh a lot, really, even though it's called Joker. But regardless, it's worth watching. If you really like this kind of content, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe. We're also now on Facebook, so you can go like us over there, and you'll get updates about whether or not we're going to post something, what we're going to post. This week, we're going to go see Birds of Prey, the new Harley Quinn movie, which has nothing to do with this Joker. So look out for that review coming up as well. For now, I'm Randall in Texas. See you guys.
I'm Matt, Michigan. Have a good day, everyone.